Everyone. I hope you all are having a good day. My husband recommended that in this video, instead of going by lexicon, I am currently in this video the architect from the Matrix movie. Unfortunately, I can't talk in his voice, but it is what it is. I am the architect now. So let's start into the deck tech. This is by far one of the most fun commander lists I have ever built, and I am very tempted to build this in paper very soon. So let's get into the commander. So our commander is Sasuke, the Living Lore. They are only 2 mana, and they have an ability where we can tap it to put a lore counter of each saga we control, and we can only activate it as a sorcery. So this is really cool in this deck because we're running a bunch of sagas that we can speed up and have them complete very quickly. And it also has another cool built-in ability where if it dies, we can either return a target saga or enchantment to its owner's hand, or we can return a saga card from our graveyard to our hand. So this is very beneficial because if the commander dies, we can either get a saga from our grave or return one onto the battlefield back to our hand. So it's cool. This is a cool commander. It does a lot for 2 mana. And like I said earlier, this is probably my favorite commander that I've ever played. So let's get into the creature pack. We're going to be playing Ashlet of the Life's Bounty. It's a 1/1 with lifelink, and we can sacrifice it to give another target enchantment we control protection from the choice of our color to the end of the turn. We are also playing Archon of the Sungrace. It is a 4 mana 3/4 flyer with lifelink that says Pegasus creatures we control have lifelink, which doesn't matter for us, but we care more so about the Constellation ability, which allows us to generate a 2/2 white. Well, it does matter because is making Pegasus. So yeah, these creatures have lifelink and flying, and whenever enchantment enters, we make one. We are playing the Pilgrim for ramp. We are playing Calyx Guided by Faith, so it has Constellation as well. So whenever it or another enchantment enters the battlefield, we put a 1/1 target, 1/1 counter on target creature, and then whenever Calyx or the enchanted creature deals combat damage to a player, you may create a token that is a copy of a non-legendary enchantment you control. You can only do this once per turn. So we can either we can copy our sagas, and we can get an additional saga. We're playing Destiny Spinner because it allows our creatures and enchantments to not be countered. And then if we want to, for 4 mana, we can make a land become an XX elemental with trample and haste, where X is the number of enchantments we control. We play a very good 1-drop in Generous Visitor that continues to grow whenever we cast an enchantment spell. We are also playing Herald of the Pantheon. It's a 2-mana spell that makes our enchantments cost 1 less to cast. And then whenever we cast an enchantment spell, we will gain 1 life. We're also playing Jukai Naturalist, a 2-mana 2/2 with lifelink that makes our enchantments cost 1 less. We're also playing Kami of Transience. It's a 2-mana 2/2 with trample. And then whenever we cast an enchantment spell, we put a 1/1 counter on it. And at the beginning of each end step, if an enchantment was put into our graveyard from the battlefield, we may return this from our graveyard to our hand. We're playing Catilda. She is a 3-mana flying lifelink protection from vampires, and her power and toughness is equal to the number of spirits and or enchantments we control. And it also has Disturb 5, where we can enchant a creature. That creature will also have flying, lifelink, and protection from vampires. It also gets XX, where X is the number of permanents we control that are spirits and or enchantments. And then if this would be put into the graveyard from anywhere, we exile it. We're playing Mesa Enchantress to draw us cards every time we play an enchantment. Nessian Wander has Constellation. So this card allows us to look at the top 3 cards of our library whenever enchantment ETBs, and then we may reveal a land to put that into our hand, and we put the rest on the bottom. Sanctum Weaver is a 2 mana 0/2 that allows us to generate a lot of mana and add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of enchantments we control. We're also playing Satyr Enchantment. It's a 3 mana 2/2 that whenever we cast an enchantment spell, we draw a card. We are playing Cetacean's Champion. It's a 3 mana 1/3 with Constellation that says whenever enchantment ETBs, we put a counter on it and we draw a card. We are also playing Sky Blessed Samurai. It is a 7 mana 4/4 that becomes 1 less to cast for each creature, for each enchantment we control, and it has flying. We're playing the Spirited Companion because it's a 2 mana 1/1 that will draw us a card when it ETBs. We are playing Starfield Mystic because it also reduces the cost of our enchantment spells. And then whenever enchantment is put into a graveyard from the battlefield under our control, put a 1/1 counter on it. Then we're playing Starheim Courser. It's a 3 mana 2/2 with flying that makes our artifacts and enchantments cost 1 less to cast. Then we are playing Sithis, a 2 mana 1/2 that whenever we cast an enchantment spell, we gain a life and draw a card. And then finally, we are playing Weaver of Harmony, a 2 mana 2/2 that gives our other enchantment creatures +1/+1. But for 1 green, we can copy target activator or trigger ability from an enchantment source, and you may choose new targets. So we can use this creature to target one of our sagas and copy the activated ability that is resolving that turn. For sorceries, we're going to be playing Board the Weatherlight. It's a 2 mana sorcery that allows us to look at the top 5 cards of our library. We may reveal a historic card from among them, put them in your hand. So that is artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. Then we're playing Brilliant Restoration, a 7 mana spell that will return all of our artifacts and enchantments from the graveyard to the battlefield. So this is really good mid to late game when we have a bunch of sagas in the graveyard. We play this for 7 and we can return all of them. We play Commune with Spirits because it either allows us to grab a land that we need or get an enchantment. Harmonize, so 4 mana sorcery to draw 3. Kodama's Reach is another Cultivate. Nature's Lure is another ramp card for us to get a forest. For instance, we are playing Beast Within as removal. We're playing a cool card called Brought Back, so we can choose up to 2 permanent cards in our graveyard that are put there from the battlefield and return them to the battlefield tapped. So if we have 2 sagas that completed, they went to the grave, we pay 2 white mana and we can return those 2. We are playing Cosmic Rebirth, so we can choose a target permanent card in our graveyard, and if it has mana value 3 or less, we may put it on the battlefield. And if you do not put it onto the battlefield, put it into your hand, gain 3 life. We're going to play Path to Exile for removal and Swords to Plowshare for removal. Artifacts are simple. Arcane Signet Decanter to make sure that we have maximum hand size. Lightning Greaves for protection. Patrial Seas is a good card for us because not only is it a mana rock, but we can pay 1 to untap a legendary creature. So most of the time we're going to be untapping our commander to get another ability to put another Lore Saga on each of our sagas. Celestina Signet, Soul Ring, and Swift Boots for protection. Then for enchantments, All That Glitters. It is an aura for 2 mana that gets a creature +1/+1 for each enchantment. Ancestral Mask for 3. Enchanted creature will get +2/+2 for each other enchantment in play. We play Azusa's Meta Journeys. It's a 2 mana that allows us to play additional land, gain 3 life, and then exile it to return it to the board, and then it becomes this. Whenever it becomes blocked, we can untap up to 3 lands. We are also playing Battle for Bretagard. So on the first level of the saga, we're going to create a 1/1 white human. Then we will create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. And then finally, the big payoff is Choose any number of artifact tokens and or creature tokens you control with different names, and for each of them create a copy of that token. We're also playing Boseiju Reaches Skyward. On its first level, it allows us to search up for 2 basic lands, put in our hand. Then we can put up to 1 target land from our graveyard on the top of our library. And then for the last saga, it exiles itself, and then it becomes this. It is a reach creature that has +1/+1 for each land. Enchantress Presence is in here to allow us to draw more cards. Era of Enlightenment is a 2-mana spell, a 2-mana saga that on the first level we could scry 2, then we can gain 2 life, and then finally it becomes this. It is simply a 2/2 creature with first strike. We're playing Ethereal Armor, which is one of my favorite enchantment auras that gives the enchanted creature +1/+1 for each enchantment we control and first strike. We are playing Fall of Gil-galad from the Lord of the Rings set. It allows us to scry 2, then put 2/1/1 counters on a creature, and then finally we target a creature, and then we target one of our creatures we control, and then whenever that creature dies, draw up to 2 cards, and then that creature fights up to 1 target creature. Then we are playing Fall of the Imposter. It is a 3-mana saga that we can put a 1/1 counter up to 1 target creature, and then on the final step, it exiles a creature with the greatest power among creatures target opponent controls. Howl Haunting is just incredible for our deck because as long as we control 7 or more enchantments, creatures we control have Flying and Vigilance. And then whenever we cast an enchantment spell, we will create a 1/1 spirit creature token with its power and toughness are equal to the number of spirits you control. We're playing Historian Boon. It's a 4-mana artifact that whenever it or another non-token creature enters the battlefield under control, we'll make a soldier. And then the big payoff is this final ability that says whenever the final chapter ability of a saga control triggers, we will make a 4/4 white angel creature token with Flying and Vigilance. We're going to be playing Historia Benalia to create a couple 2/2 white knight creature tokens with Vigilance, and then on the final chapter, our knights will get +2/+1. We're going to be playing Jugon Defend the Temple. We will create a monk that can tap for green. Then we can put a 1/1 counter on each up to 2 creatures, and then it exiles itself on the final. Then it turns into this. It is a flying 2/2 that says whenever another creature enters the battlefield, we may pay X, and if we do, put that many 1/1 counters on it. And then the final ability is pretty cool because if we somehow can control 5 or more modified creatures, this will get +5/+5, so it'll be a 7/7 with trample. We're playing Longsov of Night and Day because it allows us to draw 2 cards, but unfortunately our opponent will draw 2 cards, but sometimes we might target an opponent that might help us out with a problem board state, so sometimes you might be giving 2 cards to someone that is going to help us out in the game. And then finally we put a 1/1 counter up to 2 creatures. Then we are playing Mishko's Reign of Truth. It is a very powerful saga that allows a target creature to get +1/+1 for each artifact or enchantment we control, and then on its final step it will transform into this. It will be a creature with power and toughness equal to the amount of artifacts or enchantments we control. We're playing Song of Freyalise, a 2-mana that allows us to make our creatures ramp us, and then on the final step of the saga, we will put a 1/1 counter on each creature we control, and then those creatures will gain Vigilance, Trample, and Indestructible. We play Spirit Safety as a 5-mana enchantment as a tax ability, so that whenever we are attacked by creatures that an opponent control, they have to pay X for each number of those creatures. We're playing Sterling Grove because it gives our enchantment Shroud, but it also has a cool ability where we can pay 1 to search our library for an enchantment card, reveal it, then put it on top of our library. We're playing Teachers of Curing. We will mill 3 cards, then make a spirit, and then we'll put a 1/1 counter into our creature, and then we exile it, and then it becomes this. It says whenever it attacks, choose 1. We may exile a creature card from a graveyard. If we do, we make a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token. And then if we exile a non-creature card from a graveyard, we will put a 1/1 counter onto our creature we control. Then we are playing Birth of Meletis to thin our deck and get a plains. We will make a wall, and then we'll gain 2 life. Then we're playing the first Iron Games. On the first step, we'll make a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Then on step 2, we can put 3 counters on a creature. Then step 3, we can draw 2 cards if we control a creature with power 4 or greater. And then finally, we'll create a gold token, which is a treasure token. Then we're playing Restoration of Iganjo to thin our deck and get a plains. Then we may discard a card, and if we do, we can return a permanent with converted mana cost 2 or less from the graveyard from the battlefield top. So this will allow us to get some of our cheap sagas from the graveyard back for us. And then it exiles itself, and then it becomes this. It is a 3/4 vigilance that says whenever attacks are blocked, we make a creature token. And then finally, we play Triumph of the Garad, a 2-mana saga that says put a 1/1 counter on a target creature control with the greatest power, and then the target creature you control with the greatest power gains flying, first strike, lifelink until the end of the turn. And then for lands, it is pretty simple. Bountiful Promenade, Blankoff Pathway, Cabaret Courtyard, Command Tower, Fortified Village, Overgrown Farmland, Celestia Sanctuary, Sungrass Prairie, Sunpetal Grove, and Wooded Bastion. So that is the deck in a nutshell. We curve out at 2, and then after that, most of our spells cost 3. And this deck is relatively cheap. It's going to cost you anywhere between $155 to $160. And I think you're going to have a fun time with this deck. I have enjoyed playing it. When I played it a few times, I played it last night and I played it twice today. And it was just a fun deck to play. So I hope you enjoyed this video. The link will be up. The video will be up on YouTube shortly with all my social media links. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube so you can see more of my content that I try to do almost every single day or every other day. And I hope you have a wonderful day and take care.